testimony, you state that most of the recent decadal scale warming can be attributed to fossil fuel burning and other human activities that release carbon dioxide and other heat-trapping greenhouse gases into the environment. Will you please expand on what the other human activities are?
Certainly. A good deal of it is biomass burning, deforestation, for example. There are also greenhouse gases that are, other than carbon dioxide, for example, burning, diesel burning, and other solid fuels that give rise to black carbon or soot emissions. Methane emissions, some from agriculture, some from landfills and so forth, are also quite important, for example. Fertilizers tend to emit nitrous oxide, which is also a very effective greenhouse gas. And then there are some perfluorocarbons that are used in the chemical industry that also contribute to global warming.
Thank you very much. And you also state in your testimony that uncertainty is not a reason for inaction, and suggest taking the risk-based and flexible response to the climate change challenge. And I appreciate the analogy, like buying insurance for your house. And the chairman also talked about that, considering what if the insurance costs more than the house. I think I have to submit that it's easier to replace a house than a planet if we have the kind of damage that could come from climate change. What are the main risks to humans if we don't decrease our emissions? And are there increased risks if we delay action? And in the same vein, you talked about the greater risks from further climate change. Are the risks different as greenhouse gas emissions increase, or are they the same risks, only amplified?
I would say that as far as we know, we have a long list of risks. Some of them we see, some of them of impacts that we see potentially happening now, and some that we think will come. And I don't necessarily think that qualitatively that will change, although they might become more severe. And of course, those risks relate to loss of life and property due to extreme weather, droughts, sea level rise, of course, is a large one. We're seeing what we believe is a decimation of forests in the West from pine bark beetle infestation, which seems to be due in part due to the fact that temperatures are so high and the climate is so dry, and a variety of other things. I think what is very, very important to bear in mind in terms of making a decision about the future and the risks is that the impact of emissions today won't be fully felt for a number of decades. It's sort of the flip side of what Dr. Lomborg was saying. And so if we say, well, let's delay and see what happens in 20 years, basically not only then have we locked in what's happened in the intervening 20 years, but we've now locked into a future. And so the issue of the risks that we face is the fact that what we do today will have a major impact in the future. And do we want to take that chance, or do we want to begin to do something to mitigate that?
Thank you. Dr. Lomborg, you talked about investing heavily in research and development into green technologies. In times of budget constraints, oftentimes those investments are targeted for cuts, unfortunately. And we're committed, I think, in the United States to investing in renewable technology and renewable energy. So could you talk a little bit about what green technologies you would propose? What are the benefits, other than, of course, for the industry itself, of investing in green technology?
Absolutely, and thank you. The important part is to recognize that investing in research and development, investing in smart minds coming up with new ideas, is much, much cheaper than the support that we give to existing inefficient technologies like subsidizing solar panels or wind turbines right now. So we could actually make money and invest a lot more in research and development. My point is simply to say we don't know which technologies, and I think we would all agree, we don't know what technologies are going to power the middle of this century. But what we need to do, and what America has been so amazing at doing, is to show the way for the rest of the world, coming up with great innovations. I love, if you know Craig Venter, the guy who sequenced the human genome, he's working on making a bacteria that will essentially be producing diesel. I don't know if it's possible. It's probably technologically possible, but we also know that it's not economically feasible right now. But imagine if we could do it. And those are the kinds of ideas. There are thousands, literally thousands of ideas out there. They cost very little to support each one of those. And we really just need one or a few of those technologies to come through. And they will then make it possible for everyone else, the Chinese and the Indians, to cut their carbon emissions dramatically. So I agree with Dr. Chameides. Obviously, if we don't do anything for 20 years, we would just just have wasted 20 years. But if we actually make sure that the future will have viable alternatives, we could see a dramatic reduction in CO2 in just a short while once we get the economics right.
I see my time has expired. I yield back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.